The war did not end with a final blow. It ended with silence. You stand barefoot in a stone courtyard in Sparta. The ground is cold beneath your feet, even though the sun has already risen. 3 days ago, your city burned. Not during battle, not in chaos, but afterward, deliberately, methodically. The shouting stopped hours ago. The march is over. The screams are finished. And now comes something worse. 31 women stand beside you in perfect rows. Not chained. Not guarded. Counted. No one speaks. No one needs to. In Sparta, silence is not mercy. It is procedure. A man approaches from the far end of the courtyard. His crimson cloak marks him instantly. He does not introduce himself. Authority here does not require names. When he speaks, his Greek is sharp, stripped of ornament, each word delivered as if it were already written somewhere else. You are no longer Athenians, he says. You are no longer wives. Everything you were is finished. Each sentence lands with the precision of a blow that leaves no visible bruise. Molina does not move. She has already learned that movement attracts attention. And in Sparta, attention is never a gift. The man does not shout. He does not threaten. He speaks instead of distribution, of need, of function. His words are administrative, almost neutral, as if he were discussing grain or livestock, not human lives. The horror is not in what he says, it is in how easily he says it. This is the moment Molina understands something essential. Sparta does not rage. Sparta organizes. They now belong to the state, he explains. Not as common slaves. Slaves serve with their hands. They will serve differently. The sentence is delivered without emphasis, without explanation. It doesn't need one. The man turns and walks away without waiting for acknowledgement. The silence thickens. Spartan women step forward. Their movements are calm, exact, memorized long ago. They begin separating the group with practiced efficiency. No voices are raised. No resistance is offered. The women are divided into equal groups, 8 at a time, and led toward different buildings lining the courtyard. Molina lowers her eyes and walks when directed. She counts her steps. She forces her thoughts into order. Because in Sparta, she senses something immediately and with terrifying clarity: chaos would be easier. Waits for her is not chaos, but a machine that already knows exactly what to do with her. The building they lead her into has no markings. No banners. No symbols. Nothing to suggest purpose. In Sparta, what is most important does not announce itself. Inside, the air is cool and still. Stone walls absorb sound instead of reflecting it. The space smells faintly of clean water. That absence unsettles Molina more than chains would have. Chains would admit violence. This place admits only process. A stone table waits in the center of the room. Beside it stands a woman holding a wax tablet and a stylus. She is older, her body shaped by years of discipline rather than age. Her face shows neither curiosity nor disgust. Only function. Molina understands before a word is spoken. Here, compliance is not requested. It is assumed. The woman gestures toward the table. The motion is brief, exact. Molina steps forward immediately. Hesitation, she has already learned, is interpreted as inefficiency. The questions begin. They are not personal. They are not cruel. They are technical. Age. Health. Cycles. Origins reduced to regions. Marriage reduced to duration. Children reduced to number. Loss is not acknowledged. Death is not recorded as grief. It is recorded as absence. Each answer is marked onto the tablet with a small, precise symbol. The woman does not explain what they mean. Explanation is unnecessary. Knowledge in Sparta belongs to those who govern, not those who are governed. A second woman enters, younger, silent. She observes. Occasionally, she adjusts a mark. Molina notices that neither woman looks directly at her face for long. Faces invite complexity. The system has no use for complexity. When the questioning ends, there is no conclusion. No verdict. No reaction. That is the verdict. Molina is led down a narrow corridor and into a shared room. Other women sit along the walls. Some stare at the floor. Others fix their gaze on the stone as if searching for cracks that do not exist. No one speaks. Silence becomes a shared language, a way to avoid drawing notice, a way to survive the waiting. That night, food is brought. Measured. Sufficient. Water follows. Clean. Controlled. Molina understands then what kind of cruelty this is. This is not neglect. It is selective care. Sparta does not waste resources. What is useful is preserved. Everything else is quietly removed from calculation. As she lies awake on the hard bed, sleep never fully arriving, memories intrude without permission. Smoke in her hair. Ash on her tongue. Children's voices that end too abruptly to follow. 72 hours ago, she was the wife of an Athenian strategist. A mistress of an orderly home. A mother. Here, her name barely matters. What matters is what she can provide. What she can produce. How efficiently she can be used. And somewhere beyond these walls, decisions are already being made calmly, precisely about where she fits. She has not been punished. She has been processed. Morning arrives without announcement. Light slips through a narrow opening high in the wall, thin and indifferent. It offers no view of the outside. Sparta does not offer views. It offers containment. Molina wakes before she is called. Her body never fully rested. It remained alert, as if it learned in a single night that surrendering consciousness here is a risk. Around her, other women stir quietly. No one speaks. Words would add nothing useful. They are led out one by one into rooms identical to the one before. Stone table. Water vessel. Bench. Repetition is deliberate. It erases the expectation of variation. The older woman returns, accompanied again by the younger one. There is no urgency, no pause. The rhythm is steady, practiced. Whatever this is, it has been done many times before. The questions resume. Not why. Not how you feel. Not what you want. Only data. Patterns are noted. Strength is measured indirectly. Past is reduced to variables that can be compared against others. Molina understands now that this is not interrogation. It is calibration. When the wax tablet fills with symbols, something final occurs even if she cannot yet name it. There is no signal to mark the moment. No shift in expression. Only the quiet certainty that a threshold has been crossed. She has not been evaluated as a person. She has been evaluated as a resource. As she is led away, sounds drift faintly from behind other doors. Not screams. Not words. Just restrained emotion, the sound of breath held too long. In Sparta, control is exercised through anticipation. Each woman imagines her own outcome. That imagining does the work of fear without requiring force. Back in the inner courtyard, Molina begins to observe differently. She studies the architecture with new awareness. Everything here is built to last. Nothing is built to comfort. The stones are rough, functional, enduring. Sparta does not construct to please. It constructs to remain. The same principle applies to people. Those who fit the structure are preserved. Those who do not are corrected. Those who resist are removed. There is no anger in this system. Anger would imply choice. What governs Sparta is consistency. As a Spartan woman approaches and gestures for her to follow, Molina rises immediately. She has learned the most important rule of this place. Those who hesitate are lost. As she walks, she makes a decision so small it barely registers as thought. Sparta may control her body. It may control her time. It may even decide how long she lives. But it will not fully control her mind. That fragile decision, barely formed, barely named, becomes her first act of resistance. Not defiance. Understanding. To understand what is about to happen to Molina, it is necessary to step backward in time. Long before she ever stood in this courtyard, Sparta was not born cruel. It became precise. Centuries earlier, the city conquered fertile land it could not easily hold. The defeated were not erased. They remained. They worked the fields. They remembered who they had been. They outnumbered their conquerors and lived close enough for resentment to survive. From that moment, Sparta learned a lesson it never forgot. Survival would not come from persuasion. It would come from control. Control reshaped everything. Childhood ceased to be a refuge and became a preparation. Families yielded authority to the collective. Affection became suspect. Comfort became dangerous. Anything that did not reinforce dominance was reduced or removed. The body stopped belonging to the individual. It became a civic asset. This transformation did not occur through cruelty alone. Cruelty is inefficient. It provokes resistance. Sparta refined something more durable: habit. Children were trained not simply to endure pain, but to stop reacting to it. Hunger was not punishment. It was instruction. Silence was not obedience. It was discipline. Over time, responses that once required force became automatic. Questioning disappeared, not because it was forbidden, but because it was no longer useful. Ritual replaced reflection. Habit replaced doubt. And when a practice becomes habit, it stops appearing cruel. It simply is. Molina now exists at the far edge of that logic. She is not an exception. She is an outcome. In Sparta, morality was not defined by right or wrong. It was defined by useful and useless. Everything else was noise. Men were trained to act without reflection, to obey without needing instruction, to sever feeling from action. Those who survived this training did not become monsters. They became consistent. And consistency is the most dangerous trait of all. Within this structure existed a final stage, never spoken of directly. A space where obedience required no witnesses. Where actions occurred without explanation, because explanation implied doubt. The city did not advertise this stage. It did not need to. Fear does not require detail. Possibility is enough. At night, the women whisper. Fragments. Half-stories. Names followed by silence. In Sparta, what is not named is often what is most feared. From the outside, the city appears calm, disciplined, ordered. But beneath that surface, tension never dissipates. It accumulates. Every citizen accepts a role because the alternative is unthinkable. The system endures because no one imagines something else. Molina understands now that survival here will not come from resistance alone. It will come from anticipation. She must learn how Sparta thinks without becoming it entirely. Molina's understanding grows, but she is still only a piece in motion. A woman enters her room. Not a guard. Not a friend. An intermediary. She moves with deliberate strength, posture sculpted by years of training. Molina recognizes the body immediately. This is a person forged by Spartan culture, not by accident, but by design. My name is Gorgo, the woman says. No comfort. No apology. Just information. Spartan courtesy is measured in clarity, not warmth. Gorgo speaks in short, precise sentences. Evaluations have been completed. Marks on the wax tablets have been reviewed. Molina has been deemed suitable for a domestic assignment. Not as an equal. Not as a guest. Not as someone with choice. She is a function. Other outcomes exist for those who fail to meet the criteria. Gorgo does not describe them. She does not need to. Silence conveys more than words. In Sparta, the unknown is often the most feared. If you cooperate, you will live, Gorgo says plainly. If you don't, you will be reassigned. There is no threat in her voice, only fact. To Gorgo, it is honesty. There are no promises. No apologies. Molina absorbs it all in silence. She does not react with fear. She does not attempt defiance. Both would be irrelevant here. Her survival depends on comprehension, not emotion. When Gorgo rises to leave, she adds a single sentence. Tomorrow you will know your fate. That is all. No explanation. No preparation. No comfort. Just a statement of inevitability. Molina remains alone. She contemplates the weight of the system. The city watches not with eyes, but with processes. Not with emotion, but with procedure. Every question asked, every mark recorded, every step guided is evidence of a machine functioning exactly as intended. She realizes something rare, almost dangerous: the city's system, no matter how complete, has left a margin for thought. Not rebellion. Not negotiation. But recognition. She can observe. She can analyze. She can prepare. In Sparta, recognizing the rules of the machine does not guarantee safety. But it allows a narrow space to move, to exist without being crushed, to survive without surrendering entirely. And for the first time since arriving, Molina senses that her survival will require more than obedience. She must anticipate. She must calculate. She must learn to exist inside the system without being consumed by it. Tonight, she is not free. But she is not yet fully classified. And that space, however narrow, might be all she has. The next day is unmarked by ceremony. The city does not pause for individuals. Molina is summoned to the courtyard. At the far end, a man waits. Not young, but his body retains the density of long training. His presence is measured, not performative. Faces shift subtly at his approach. Postures adjust. Attention sharpens. His name is Cleomes. He does not introduce himself. It is unnecessary. Authority in Sparta is conveyed through presence, not speech. He speaks in the dry, precise tone of a man trained to separate facts from emotion, domestic stability, continuity, efficiency, inheritance. Molina answers calmly, plainly. She does not plead. She does not embellish. She mirrors the Spartan restraint she has learned. For the first time, she perceives a rare truth: recognition. Cleomes is not rebelling against the system, nor is he humanizing her out of mercy. He is observing her. Measuring her responses. Not for pity, not for desire, but for utility. Each conversation begins as interrogation, but over time, a subtle shift occurs. Cleomes lingers. He listens more carefully. He responds more fully. He is surrounded by men, all trained to suppress observation of the individual. But Molina is foreign. She is property. And paradoxically, in that difference lies safety. Yet safety is dangerous. Every pause, every careful answer, every silent observation adds weight to an invisible ledger. Cleomenes begins to adapt his expectations not for rebellion, but for what the city cannot fully account for. Molina recognizes the potential. She has entered the system as a function. But functions can become indispensable. She does not misinterpret the risk. Any recognition carries consequences. But she also understands the power of anticipation. Control is exercised not only through authority, but through dependency. The city values efficiency, stability, predictability. By becoming necessary, by being useful beyond the expected, she can manipulate the margin the system allows. That evening, when she returns to Cleomenes' household, she notes a subtle change in him. Unease, measured. Alertness. Something beyond exhaustion or irritation. He has been informed, not fully, but enough to recognize that the equilibrium they had reached is now fragile. They speak little. Silence carries more weight than words. The margin for error has shrunk. Every assignment must justify itself. Every action is recorded, observed, and evaluated. For the first time, Molina understands the precise logic that will govern her survival, not blind obedience, not passive endurance, but calculated participation. The system does not reward emotion. It rewards evidence. Every gesture, every response, every measured act of compliance becomes proof of value. And in that proof lies power. Weeks pass with precise repetition. Days collapse into a rhythm of measured steps, wax tablets, and silent observation. Molina's body is catalogued, her abilities noted, her presence evaluated. Yet something subtle begins to shift. The system has left her a margin almost invisible, but real. The summons arrives without warning. Two men escort her through familiar streets, not through familiarity, but through repetition. The city does not change. Its stones do not alter. Its architecture does not comfort. Only the rules persist. They enter a chamber austere even by Spartan standards. 5 seats form a semicircle. One chair sits opposite them, waiting for her. She takes it as instructed. The F'ers the E4s speak. Their tone is neither cruel nor benevolent. They note that time is passing. Expected results have not appeared. Then they present a request. A name is spoken: Lysander. Molina has heard it whispered before, always followed by silence. The F'ers do not explain who he is. The weight of the name is enough. Their request is framed not as privilege, nor as threat, but as administrative dilemma. Granting it has costs. Denying it has costs. Both paths lead to loss, though in different forms. This is Sparta's choice, not moral, not ethical, not emotional. Only calculated responsibility. Molina considers the options carefully. She understands immediately, her survival depends not on rebellion, but on anticipation. On comprehension of the system. On understanding how the city weighs consequence against risk. She does not waver. She chooses to remain where she is. The path she knows. The narrow margin of control she understands. The F'ers incline their heads. No relief is offered. No praise. Only acknowledgement. Time continues. Observations continue. The system watches, records, waits. That night, back in Cleomenes' household, Molina notes the subtle change in him. He is more present. Attentive. He defends his choices using the language the system respects: efficiency, stability, and future value. He does not speak of Molina as a person, only as an asset. The protection is imperfect. But it is real. Molina registers the shift carefully.
Every calculated move she makes draws attention, creates leverage, and diminishes unpredictability.
The margin for error has narrowed further. And in that narrowing lies clarity. Survival in Sparta will never be passive.
Compliance is insufficient. Understanding is insufficient. Survival requires control of perception, influence over expectation, anticipation before command.
And for the first time, Molina sees the rules not only as chains, but as a map. The system that seeks to erase her individuality has inadvertently taught her its own logic.
She can move within it.
She can bend it, carefully.
She can survive.
Night falls in Sparta, indifferent and unyielding. The streets are empty, but the city never sleeps.
Molina returns to Cleome's household.
The door closes behind her with a soft, final click, a reminder that every exit is also an entrance back into observation.
Cleome's is waiting.
Not for conversation, not for confession, but for coordination. He has changed subtly, irrevocably. His posture, his attention, the careful tone in which he measures his words, all betray awareness that the equilibrium between them is fragile. They speak little. The silence carries more weight than speech ever could. Every pause, every measured glance, every gesture has become part of a calculus neither of them fully admits.
Molina sits, upright.
Her body is calm, but her mind is active. She has observed, learned, catalogued. She understands now that in this city, the individual is a function.
Every action is recorded. Every response is evidence. Every skill is an asset.
The survival of the self no longer depends on obedience. It depends on anticipation. On creating leverage where none seems possible.
On transforming utility into indispensability. The nights that follow are mechanical. Consultations, adjustments, minor corrections, recommendations delivered as technical instructions. Each act of participation becomes proof of her value. Every carefully timed response diminishes the risk of reassignment, the silent threat that hangs over every woman in the city. Cleome's changes too. He is more present in public. More attentive in household matters. He justifies his actions using the language Sparta respects: efficiency, resource allocation, future benefit. He does not see Molina as a person, but he cannot ignore her presence.
And in that presence, she discovers a margin the city did not anticipate. A margin for thought.
For agency. For strategy. Molina does not overestimate it. She knows she cannot undo Sparta. She knows she cannot resist it openly.
But within this margin, she can survive. She can shape outcomes subtly, carefully, in ways the city will measure only as utility. By occupying the narrowest space allowed between compliance and influence, she transforms her reduction into resilience.
She becomes essential not by rebellion, not by defiance, but by precision, by insight, by anticipation. Sparta has classified her.
The city has calculated her worth. And yet, within the bounds of its machine, she has found a space that is hers alone.
The system endures, relentless and indifferent. But Molina has learned its rhythm.
She has learned the rules.
She has found the margin.
And in that margin lies survival.
The city does not wait for the individual. It only endures.
Molina, for the first time since her capture, moves within it on her own terms.